Hello everybody, my name is Lonnie. Welcome to my kitchen, and today we'll be making a flan. If you don't know what flan is a Puerto Rican dessert. It's a caramel vanilla custard. You could take the vanilla out if you want. I put vanilla in mine because I think it's really good. It's a lot easier to make than you would think. The hardest part of making this dessert is probably making the caramel in the process of flipping it out of the pan into the serving dish. If you don't want to flip it, you don't have to. I just think it looks pretty on the dish. So let's go ahead and get started with this recipe. Before you start anything, you want to make sure that you preheat your oven to 325 degrees. Now let's go make some caramel sauce. All right, so you want to grab your pan, and in my measuring cup, I have a cup of sugar, but you don't want to put all of the sugar in at once. As you can see, I only put in enough to cover the bottom of the pan, and you just want to shake it around, make sure it evenly coats the bottom. I like to kind of stir it around just to make sure it gets everywhere. You want to give the sugar a second to start melting, then you want to stir. As you can see, it's going to start to clump up into little balls. That's a really good sign. As soon as it starts to get clumpy like this, it means your sugar is starting to melt. So at this point, you want to babysit it the whole time from here on, because if you forget it or if you leave it alone for too long, the sugar might burn and that'll just ruin the whole caramel sauce. As your sugar slowly starts to melt and clump up, you want to slowly add in the rest of the sugar. Again, slowly, so don't add it in all at once. Just gradually add enough to cover the sugar, mix that in, let it melt into the sugar a little bit, and then gradually add some more. As you continue this process, it should start to darken in color and slowly start to look more like a caramel sauce. You'll see here soon what it's supposed to look like at the end. Once you've gotten to this point and it's pretty much a caramel sauce, you just want to make sure that no more little bits of sugar are left in it. And as soon as you don't see any more, go ahead and set it aside. Now for the custard, let's go ahead and get started. You're going to need 5 eggs. I personally like to crack the egg in a separate bowl and then transfer that into the bigger bowl. This way I avoid getting any eggshell into my mixture. After my last egg, I added 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 1 12-ounce can of evaporated milk, and 1 14-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk. The sweetened condensed milk is really thick, so I grabbed my whisk and I tried to scrape up as much out of that as possible. Now, when it comes to mixing this mixture, you just want to make sure you don't add too much air into the mixture. We will try to get as many of the air bubbles out as possible later, but you don't want to add too many in the mixing process. Once that's nice and smooth, you want to set it aside and then grab your already prepped dish and go ahead and pour it in there. Now, I totally forgot to film this part and I apologize, but you want to grab a deep roasting pan, something big enough to fit the pan your flan is in. I like to put the roasting dish on the rack first so that I don't spill any water on the way in. Set the flan in and add your water in for the water bath and bake for about 45 minutes to an hour. And once your flan is done, you want to make sure to let it cool completely before putting it in the fridge. It's been about 5 hours since I put my flan in the fridge to set. It has fully set, so now we're going to start the process of demolding onto our serving dish. A little trick that I like to do to help get the flan perfectly out of the mold is I like to use the pan that I use for the water bath, and I boil up some water on the side. I let that sit for a second, not too hot, but just warm enough. I'm going to go ahead and pour that water into this pan. It should be just enough to cover the bottom of the pan. So now you're going to grab your flan and you're just going to stick it in there and you're going to let it sit for like a minute or two. The warmth is going to loosen up some of that hardened caramel on the bottom and on the sides. You're going to grab a knife. I like to kind of dip it in the water to kind of warm it up a little bit and then run it around the sides just to be extra safe. So not even like 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and take this out. This is the moment. I'm going to grab my dish. Going to cover this. Make sure it's nice and tight. And then you're going to flip. I heard it kind of drop a little. I like to take my time with this though. Tap it around. This is probably the most stressful moment of flan, is it's coming out of this in one piece. I like to kind of tap it down on the counter, but some of the juices have released, so I can't do that right now, as you can kind of see. All right. In 3, 2, 1. Oh my goodness. I'm not really sure what happened in the center there, to be honest. But for the most part, we have a really good looking flan. All right, now that we have our beautiful flan done, I'm gonna go ahead and put a piece on a plate for myself and try it for y'all. I definitely think if you like any sort of cheesecake or any sort of custard dessert, you will definitely love this. And honestly, it's really easy. It's what, 5 ingredients? I think that anybody could do this if they try. So I hope that you try it out and let me know what you think. And while you do that, I'm going to try my best not to finish this whole thing before my family gets home. Goodbye. I'll see you next time.